when you hold 5% of an asset, people start listening to you a lot more.
Is that like the upper limit, or are we dreaming even bigger?
So I think on the dashboard, we're coming up to 1 million units right now.
And they said dead ass, because there's no DeFi on Solana. And I was like, yo.
I think it goes to the point, it's not what you're saying, it's who's saying it.
So you mean BlackRock doesn't want to hold $400 million worth of SOL in a ledger?
Because you have everyone working for you in your bags.
Thank you for pumping all our bags. Do you even sleep? Welcome to the Soul Brothers, everyone. My name is Eno. I am the co-host of the Soul Brothers, and today I am joined by my very good friends, James. James, how are you?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
You have been doing a lot of things in the ecosystem. I think most people know you as so-called Jambo James, but now you're working as a advisor. What's the exact title here?
The strategic advisor to Sharps Technology.
Yes, exactly. Otherwise known as STSS. So what exactly is STSS?
Yes, sir. STSS, the Solana Digital Asset Treasury, we launched about 3 weeks ago, raised over $400 million with the sole purpose to accumulate Solana and increase your Solana per share for shareholders.
My bags, thank you very much.
Well, whoever goes to market essentially has the benefit of price action, right? Like when we launched a few weeks ago, Solana was at 190.
Yeah.
And since then, there's been 2 to 3 other Solana DATs that have launched with open market buying pressure in the billions that has brought Solana to what it is today.
Yeah. I mean, like I've heard you talk about in other interviews how your time horizon is anywhere from like 5 years to 10 years. And so like short-term price action doesn't worry you. In fact, to you, it's more of an opportunity now, isn't it?
So honestly, the volatility is super good. Super good is a very general phrase, but what I mean is when you have dry powder to deploy with a long-term sort of strategy, you're looking at it in terms of like, you know, Michael Saylor's sort of orange dot BIPS chart that he posts on Sundays, and it's always going right and up. That's sort of how we see this industry, digital assets as a whole, and that's why we're obviously both here. But more so when you're launching a digital asset treasury strategy, what it's doing is giving exposure to institutions, to investors outside of those that might not be able to handle the operational risk and execution risk of owning the underlying asset. So for us, it just made a lot of sense in this time horizon.
So you mean BlackRock doesn't want to hold $400 million worth of SOL in a ledger?
Well, I think BlackRock launching the IBIT ETF for Bitcoin, they're seeing more flows in there than their S&P 500 ETF. They're probably looking at other assets now other than Bitcoin too.
So let's take a quick pause on STSS. We'll rewind back in a second.
Sure.
But I want people to know more about the man, the myth, the legend himself. Right when I got into the podcast studio, I heard James speak in French. So, ça va, mon ami?
Ça va bien, merci. I mean, no, I walk in, you know, it's 10 a.m. here in Seoul, and then the podcast studio is a very nice gentleman that's speaking English with me, but he's Korean, and I detect a French accent. So I had to ask, like, where are you from? So then he's French, and we got to talking on that. But the reason is because I grew up in Congo in Central Africa, first 16 years of my life, and that was colonized by Belgium, unfortunately. So you grow up sort of speaking French. There's an American school, you speak English there, and then with your parents at home, you sort of keep that ethnicity and speak Mandarin.
Oh, dude, how many years have I known you? I feel like I've known you for like 2, 3?
2, 3 in crypto, you know how long that's in the real world. So.
Yeah, it's like dog years, right?
Exactly.
Feels like 6 or 7. I'm vaguely aware that you grew up in Africa, right? But like and now it makes sense because so many of those countries were colonized by the French, right? So like, it just kind of boggles the mind that you speak. How many languages do you speak then? 4?
Just the 3. So English and then Mandarin and French, but a bit of Lingala, the local dialect. But I mean, I feel like all my friends that grew up in Congo are honestly super pro crypto, and they're not even in the industry, air quotes, but they just use it every day. So like, it just made a lot of sense for me that I should devote a lot of my time in this, even when I started my career in 2017 where I graduated.
Yeah, I mean, like you talk to the homies over in Africa. So like, we have a lot of friends over in Nigeria because Super Team Nigeria,
of course.
Right?
Amazing.
And it's like, crypto already has very strong product market fit there, specifically stablecoins, because their local currency is, you know.
Yes, hyperinflation, etc.
It's trash.
Yeah, it's trash. I think even beyond the hyperinflation is you can't spend it anywhere other than in your country, and you can't send it anywhere. Like we're in Korea right now, we can send a payment over to a friend in China or in the US. If you're in the US from like New York to LA, you can send on Venmo, PayPal, and one of any sort of payment platforms. In Africa, it's all mobile money. So like your SIM card is essentially like your bank account, and there's like 40% unbanked in the entire continent of 54 countries. And Nigeria, which we're using as example, is already probably top 3, you know, economies in Africa. So there's definitely a lot of work to be done. But honestly, that's what excites us the most, because you see real crypto adoption there. They don't care if the stablecoin is on which chain, as long as it's fast and easy to transact, right? And that we're seeing in the form of Tron and Solana a lot.
So, like looking at the leadership of STSS, right? You have what's the CEO's name again? Remind me.
Yes, so Paul is the CEO.
Right. Paul. Yep. And he was not Solana native, but you quickly got him up to speed. And he's a quick study, right?
Yes. So what happened essentially, we identified Sharp's technology, who's on the NASDAQ, and we really got along with the management team and have this vision for the Solana digital asset treasury strategy. And they essentially were a medical distribution device company, and still ongoing that part of the business very minimally, and have onboarded and fully really believe in the Solana treasury strategy. So Paul, et cetera, have been a blessing.
Right. And then the CIO, or the chief investment officer of the company, is Alice. And Alice who is she?
My sister and co-founder at Jambo as well. So yeah, we grew up.
Oh, she's a co-founder of Jambo.
Yeah, exactly. So we grew up together in Africa. She then went to Columbia. I was at NYU, so both New Yorkers. I joined her multifamily office after I graduated and took 10% of the AUM and did crypto. That's how I ran a fund for the first 4 years. And in 21, starting Jambo, obviously she's a killer. We've been working together for a while. And even for STSS, she's currently the CIO, the Chief Investment Officer, and she has a capital markets background of decades. So it just made a lot of sense in managing the assets and all the operational execution risk.
And the family office was about like 600 million AUM, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, the multifamily office about 600.
Crazy.
So it was about 50, 60 in size for the crypto component of it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. But so that begs the question then, obviously, first of all, I didn't know that Alice was a co-founder of Jambo. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes, sir.
Since you guys are so Solana aligned. But I would like to think, just knowing all the advocacy and the work that you do in the ecosystem. I mean, you've been here for years, right? Like you've been here, as long as I've been on Solana, James has been there, right? So just tell us more about your Solana story, because there's so many different ecosystems. You could have, maybe you were even on EVM previously. How did you find your way to Solana?
100%. I think when I got into crypto, Bitcoin, just like anyone else in 2017, we even led the pre-IPO round for Bitmain, right? Mining, going deep, all Bitcoin proof of work related stuff. Jambo in 2021, after we had started it with the Web3 solving the mobile part of crypto, we essentially were going to deploy a lot of apps to users and provide distribution, and we needed a chain that had liquidity and users, and can handle the UI and UX that we wanted to. If you want to onboard next billion users crypto, they're probably not going to be on-chain warriors, seasoned vets, probably going to be in the global south, in a lot of other places in the world. And if you don't have that UI UX abstraction and to actually help them onboard in that easy we understand all the value proposition of Solana, then it really is tough. So it wasn't really hey, I knew Toli and Raj, or I knew X person from Solana and let me just come in. It's more we really just had to find a chain with all the properties we're looking for. And
it was a practical concern.
Practical. It was the most commercialized, commercial, viable chain.
You mean that your users don't want to pay $69 in gas fees?
Well, to be fair, we were a multi-chain wallet,
sure,
etc. Exactly right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the KOLs and local influencers that were speaking on crypto and just trading in general were also already speaking on Solana. So it was very easy for us, because it wasn't we're marketing on crypto Twitter just to a subset of folks in North America, Canada, et cetera. It's more this is Africa, right? What is our go-to-market? Solana already had a go-to-market strategy with Super Team. And we see Super Team Nigeria, they're killers, the all-star team. So for us, we could actually plug in and tap in. And similarly, one of our largest markets in Africa is Nairobi. So I was wondering if Solana Super Team was going to have a Nairobi, component, and very big as well. But yeah, the adoption is crazy.
Yeah. So it's kind of Jambo is obviously still your baby, but now STSS is, and you're working very, very hard to accelerate all their bags. And I've actually heard you say in a different podcast that the long-term vision, you could see STSS Sharp's technology acquiring upwards of 3 to 5% of the SOL supply. Is that the upper limit, or are we dreaming even bigger?
At the end of the day, the purpose of this digital asset treasury strategy for whatever asset class you're doing, you see a startup micro strategy is you're trying to issue more shares, essentially raise more cash to then buy the underlying asset and increase the holding per share, right? So last year, if you bought MicroStrategy, you would have made 75% more than just holding Bitcoin, because they were able to grow your Bitcoin per share, that if you held one share versus one Bitcoin over time by 78%. So for us, we have to continuously raise capital. So when I even pitched in the pipe, right, we raised 400 mil up to $1 billion aggregate proceeds to private investors. A lot of guys like Parify, Pantera, Rockaway X, early Solana investors. I wasn't pitching Solana to them, right? They own more Solana than me. They've been to the Solana thesis much earlier. It's more pitching James, the management team, how we can continuously fundraise and essentially get out the echo chamber of crypto Twitter to essentially show Solana to the real world, right? Air quotes, TradFi Wall Street. And some of those things might not be sharing the metrics that we talk about every day. Like, you know, the amount of developers, 7,500 new developers onboarded, amazing. But I don't know if the retail in Wall Street will understand developers onboarded and like 4.5 mil daily active wallets. They don't understand the significance of that, but they might understand Solana did 900 mil of revenue last quarter, right? Ethereum did 300 mil. Revenue is something that no matter what industry you're in, people understand. And the fastest growing apps in crypto are pretty much, I see a lot of them on Solana, right? Photon, Axiom, Pump, first to 100 mil. So yeah, I think for us it's like that.
I mean, like, so it's obviously super fair that people outside of our echo chamber, right, would not understand the amount of activity on this chain, right? But yesterday I was over at a coffee shop and I just randomly ran into some ETH KOLs. And I like to do user interviews with people outside of our ecosystem because like I need to, in order for me to convince them that Solana is where the future is going to be built, I have to understand their point of view first, right? So I was kind of like, so what about ETH excites you, right? And in comparison to Solana, and like, why do you guys not seriously consider Solana as an ecosystem that you want to be a part of, right? And they said, dead ass, right? No irony. There you go, because there's no DeFi on Solana. And I was like, yo, even people in the crypto echo chamber don't know the amount of, like, dude, number one revenue, like how much, I think you know the figure. How much revenue did we make last quarter?
900.
900 million.
3x of Ethereum.
I mean, come on.
You know, I can't even blame them because at the end of the day, it's age and like how long something has been out there, right? Solana is only 5 years old, whereas Ethereum's 11, Bitcoin 17. You look at Bitcoin with 40 ETFs, Ethereum with 20-something. Solana has 7 that are pending with like an October review date. So the writing's on the wall in terms of how fast this ship is going to sail. It's just, I feel blessed that we're so early to understand it and then to try to share the story because it's not like I built all the apps on Solana, right? It's like Jupiter, Sanctum, Bonk, etc. These are all amazing founders and world-class teams. So like, it's just about showing what work has been done in a way that the wider retail audience can understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, we have a lot more evangelism to do and just talking about the fundamentals of the chain. And the good thing for us is that like our ecosystem makes our jobs very easy, right? Because there's so many high quality founders, incredible talent, also foundation. I think you can tell how bullish to be on a chain based on how well organized and structured their foundation is, right? And I will say unequivocally that Solana has the best foundation in the world. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with Lily.
Yes.
Wait, who's Lily?
Okay, so Lily is the president of Solana Foundation.
Yes.
And essentially has done an amazing job. We've seen how she's commercialized even more from Middle East, Asia regions, hiring entire super teams. And, you know, you have Solar, the entire APAC team, shout out. I think if you've done business, you understand that Solana is, they're businessmen. Like, you understand they're here for you. There is someone you can reach out to for whatever part of the industry that you're in, right? You even have Kristen Smith and the Solana Institute, Policy Institute. You have all the founders. You have all the super teams. Luyen. You have just like entire infrastructure. Not saying that other foundations don't, but if you look at Ethereum Foundation, et cetera, it'll be hard to reach out to Vitalik or to someone directly, I feel like, and get as much like just one-on-one FaceTime and outreach to help your business and your growth. And maybe that's a function of, you know, L2s and other things happening. But for us seeing Solana and all because we had to work with not only wallets, games, LSTs, like we've worked across, you know, spectrum and the ecosystem. We're blessed, and you just see how the foundation, even on a media level, can support you in making intros, etc.
I mean, it's like the level of work that they do on our behalf as an ecosystem is unmatched. They're meeting with regulators all around the world. They're meeting with banks. They're meeting with exchanges. They're meeting with capital allocators, right? I almost feel like Solana Foundation makes it their business to tee us up for a 400-yard drive every single time. And sometimes they'll even go to a meeting and like recommend like, hey, if you're looking for this particular solution, we have this team that you should consider, right? And it's like, it's not that they play favorites, but they're showing the wide landscape of what's possible on Solana, which brings me back to Jambo. Just for how many units have you sold?
So I think on the dashboard, we're coming up to 1 million units right now.
1 million units?
1 million units.
Yo!
So we have our next device in production right now that'll be releasing at Breakpoint. So I'm not going to share as much, but it's around mining and around certain sectors in the Solana eco. So we're very excited about that. We have a very active management team at Jambo. So we're extremely excited. A lot of friends have asked me, like, how are you splitting your time between Sharps, STSS, and Jambo? And obviously it's taken a lot of time for me the last 3 months getting this off the ground, launching an active management team in Jambo. But at the end of the day, I feel like we're completing the same mission, right? The J token is on Solana. We're evangelizing Solana. So it's a lot of work across the same paths.
Yeah. I mean, so I actually asked this question to Nam earlier or was it last week? Last week. I was like, bro, it's like Bonk is working on what feels like 14, 15, 20 different companies. You know what I'm talking about, right?
It's incredible.
It's literally, he calls it a social L2.
Right.
It's like an empire, you know? And he's like, look, the people keep calling me the founder of Bonk, and I'm not. Like, I'm a contributor to Bonk.
Right.
Like, I'm very lucky in that I do a lot of the public advocacy, but that public advocacy should not be equated with, like, I'm doing all the work. Like, behind Nam is, not even behind, with Nam is, like, a vast network of high-quality founders, working in conjunction to create the Bonk ecosystem, right? And same with you. It's like, you're a very public face, and a very likable face. But it's like, it's not like James is the only guy working at Jambo. He's the only guy working on STSS. It's like, it's a team effort.
Right.
There's, I'm sure, many incredible minds behind the scenes for both companies. And so it's like, you are doing the very important work of advocacy, which is the part of any initiative, whether it be Jambo or STSS. But like, that's not like both things aren't being worked on. They're being worked on to max acceleration. Exactly. It's just a matter of, exactly.
No, I appreciate you, bro, for real. It means a lot coming from you. I think, like, even looking at Bonk, Bonk has a special place in my heart because it's in both of my ventures. It's proven something that sort of helped me along the way. So if you look at Jambo days, how did Bonk come out and honestly bootstrap Solana meme coins? August 2023, Bonk airdrops about 10,000 Bonk tokens to Solana Saga holders, right? The first Solana phone.
Right.
And when Solana Saga came out at $1,000, there was some mixed opinions like, oh, it's a very expensive Web3 phone, air quotes, etc. And there was some negativity around it. But immediately, I was still building Jambo in production. It was coming out in a few months. I was like, this looks like a platform, not really just a phone. As you got to think about it differently. And you look at Seeker, what they're doing with the entire, Seeker month of showing
Seeker season.
Seeker season, showing new D apps coming on. Perena was on there. Bonk essentially showed that Saga is a platform by it going up in value 1,000x, making everyone's money back that bought the Saga. And that helped me tremendously for Jambo and proving that sort of product market fit that a phone, like a hardware device, can be a Trojan horse into distribution.
Bro, people forget that when the Saga first came out, it was a flop. Nobody bought it. And
people,
it was, people were like, what the fuck is this? Like, why is Solana launching a phone? And like, I remember seeing this meme, and it's all like, 2 phones in Solana, 2 phones too many. And I'm just like, it was not a very positive environment for hardware manufacturers, right? And as soon as Bonk dropped that, that 10,000 Bonk, which helped a lot with the cost of the phone, it inspired a tidal wave of projects to start using the phones as distribution. Right.
And I would argue it started a tidal wave of projects that started building D apps and like just decentralized apps that are progressive web apps, like TPWAs that can go in D app stores that can circumvent Apple and Google's app stores. And that showed like incredible mobile growth. And those people trickled down to Jambo as well. Then we started working together. So it just showcased like if you can prove something and bootstrap liquidity, like there's an entire ecosystem of founders that are waiting to build in there, and you're sort of just starting the wave.
Right. Which brings me to my next topic. I think a beautiful segue here. You have a partnership with Bonk for Sharps Technologies. So what's going on over there?
It's a very simple partnership. Sharps raised $410 million. We've accumulated that onto over 2 mil Solana within the week
Insane.
After. Just open market buys, right? Well, Solana, one of the main things that's so attractive is the 8% native staking yield.
Yeah.
And on top of that, now working with LSTs, you can do a lot more yield generation, market neutral strategies.
Shout out to Sanctum.
Shout out Sanctum, exactly. So that's actually it's something on the horizon. But with Bonk, it's just a no brainer. You know, we're contributing about 10% of their Bonk Sol TVL, and it's not only generating us more yield, deepening the liquidity in the ecosystem, but for them having sort of this actual cultural and community, it gives you like a platform to honestly speak to a lot of like Solana DeFi and devs that, okay, Sharps Technology is not just an institutional brand that's community Solana doing their own thing. They're actually trying to forward the Solana ecosystem.
Yeah. I mean, so like what I know about you personally, right? You're a very aggressive guy. Don't get me wrong. Kind, nice, but fucking aggressive.
Okay.
Right? And you want to maximize SOL per share for your holders.
Yes.
Right? And so I'm really curious how different DATs evaluate risk, right? Because certainly there are things that you can do to accumulate more SOL, but it might put the principal in danger, right? And it's all like, but so how do you balance being aggressive and doing what's for your fiduciary duty to your holders, but also like weighing risk and making sure that you're protecting everyone's capital?
Great question. So I want to attack this from a few different angles. Let's maybe start first with the most fundamental. It's a structuring of your actual DAT.
Yeah.
So many people listening might just think it's, hey, this public vehicle on the NASDAQ, and then they just raise X amount of money. Okay, now it's a new company that has a Solana digital asset treasury strategy. Actually, there's a lot more nuance in the sense, is it a SPAC, which is a complete merger that takes a year to actually complete the deal, air quotes, and you can't fundraise for another year, but you already got all your economics in the beginning? Or is it a pipe format, which is what we did, which is a quicker to unlock and shares, and basically giving you more of the flywheel to keep continuously raising capital and buying more Solana per share? Or is it a pipe plus an ATM where you can then, BitMine proved to be working very well, is you can actually have an at-the-market facility and raise more capital, after your stock is already live. So number one is I think the market now has received that a vehicle has to have the continuous fundraising capability in order to increase your Solana per share. So that's just the fundamental. You got to come to the game with a structure of a pipe plus an ATM.
Yeah.
So that is how Sharps Technology is set up. Second is, I think on the risk part, you can really go up the risk curve if your premium to MNAV is a lot higher, meaning like if you have 500 mil in your treasury, but you're trading at $1 billion market cap.
Yeah.
So it's like a 2-to-1 MNAV, and you can accretively raise cash anything above 1-to-1 for your Solana per share. This obviously premium is given to you by the market based on who your figurehead is, right? Tom Lee for Ethereum, for BitMine. You look at Michael Saylor's strategy, it started 5 years ago, continues to be able to prove this strategy. I think this is why a lot of the game for DATs is actually you have to get out there and do PR and share and what you're doing, because that attention capital, we understand it better than anyone in crypto, is what gives you more sort of leeway and ability to increase your asset per share.
Yeah, I want to circle back on a couple of terms that you shared here, and I'm not gonna lie, I understand what the acronym is,
for sure.
but I'd love to get explain like I'm five from an expert, right?
Okay.
So what is a pipe, PIPE, right? And what is an ATM at the market, right? ATM, like what exactly does that mean? These two things.
So all a pipe is just a private round. So we raised 410 million in the air quotes pipe. Another way to say it is you raise 410 million in a private round from private investors, and that will then go public. Which for us, the raise was for a few weeks in August and and right before that, and on August 25th we became live with the actual announcement and all the wires funding, and then you can go and start accumulating the Solana with the cash in your bank account. You have to set up custodians, etc., and then to actually buy into the SOL. So all a pipe is a private round.
Okay,
a SPAC is a special purpose acquisition sort of vehicle that is longer than a pipe. It's also a private round, but just think of it as like a 1 year to unlock, and you are not able to do a lot more of the fundraising capabilities that you might want to after you've launched. So you have to do everything beforehand. Right. And a SPAC,
So for like a SPAC though, right? Like often it requires like a let's say a merger of the company, right? Whereas like a pipe, like it's not like you guys took over STSS, right?
Yes.
Sharps Technologies. It's still a medical supply distribution company.
Exactly. Yeah. So the biggest nuance here is a SPAC triggers a merger and a change of control to the NASDAQ, to the SEC. So it takes about that long to actually get the deal done, a year, etc. For a pipe, it's about 45, 60 days.
Okay.
But you don't trigger a change of control. It's not a
quick.
merger. Exactly. And you can continuously doing your operations. So if you think about it, all of DAT financial structuring is financial engineering in terms of getting you to the goal that you want to do, which is accumulate SOL and increase Solana per share. How you do that, is it a pipe, is it a SPAC, is it a RTO, which is a reverse takeover? There's a lot of terms. But you can have a technical founder that's understanding capital markets to do this. I think this actually shows, if you look at most of the DATs out there, they're run by asset managers.
Yeah.
And they're run by guys that are really good at capital markets, understand how to generate yield. It's rarely actually by a founder in the ecosystem. If you look at the various other DATs, I think founder-led is a lot less because founders don't have as much financial capital markets background. So being lucky that we used to run a fund, understand sort of these structurings, we're able to solve it for Solana.
Yeah. And what is an ATM, and also how much are you trying to raise?
Yes. So all an ATM means is after your pipe is done, the 410 mil we announced on August 25th, now say the stock is in the market, you can go buy STSS on NASDAQ, it's doing X amount of volume. Can we sell shares and raise cash, which is the whole point? And you need it at the market facility, ATM, to do so. So our ATM is quite large, over 9 figures in size. And you basically can tap into that and sell shares and creatively sell shares and generate cash to then buy into Solana continuously. So we're currently starting that strategy as well. And you can actually find all of this on like SEC filings, on S1s and S3s. These are all like your 8Ks. These are all like public market things that you have to do.
Sure.
That's a bit different from in crypto, where you do partnership announcements on X, retweets, quote retweets, and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, as far as a public market goes, you are working in crypto speed in that context, right? I mean, like 45 days is like that's not anything in a public market. We know friends who've been working on ETF filings for like over a year, and I kind of feel bad for them, like a little bit, because it's like they put in all this work, and then even just recently, what did they say? They basically said like, okay, we're going to come up with a new listing process for like generic crypto assets.
Right.
And it's like, so basically what that means, TLDR, is like all that work you did in the last year, it's going to be different now.
ETFs is for the people. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I think now you can start looking at ETFs versus DATs and do the argument. Like you might ask me, James, why would I buy a DAT when I can just buy an ETF? It's a public market wrapper vehicle as well and done by an institution. Well, number one, you have a lot more tools in a DAT, like in the barbell, where say your share price starts going down, you can actually sell your underlying asset, right? We raised 410 million cash, bought to over 2 mil Solana, currently valued around 500 mil of Solana. We can sell, portions of that to buy back our stock to inspire shareholder confidence, and the vice versa. On top of that, I think one of the main things is if you want to be accretive to the underlying asset, like for us to Solana, through a DAT, we can do a lot of things on-chain and in the ecosystem versus an ETF. So you can execute on-chain Solana buy orders, right?
Yeah.
Through Jupiter, through et cetera, through you guys. You can do a lot of LST and higher yield generation events.
Sure.
You can do cash. There's just a lot of things you could do on-chain versus an ETF. So
Yeah.
I think the value generation and that is a lot more crypto native as well through a DAT.
Yeah, and like also ETFs are, it's almost like one-to-one to the asset almost always, right? It's like a synthetic representation of the asset itself, whereas like a DAT could be trading multiples of the underlying.
For sure.
And, I mean, in fact, that's if it's not, then something's wrong, right? Like you probably don't have a confident management team. Like they should probably be doing more on-chain activity.
No, exactly. If you take a step back and look at the current landscape of DATs, Bitcoin's the largest with the most DATs.
Yeah.
Well, where has Bitcoin gone? You have MicroStrategy that started this 5 years ago. No one paid attention until 1 year ago. Then you have Metaplanet, right? That happened in Japan because the tax rules
income
in the
tax
region.
versus
Income tax, exactly.
Right.
Then you go to Brazil. They're about to have the largest Brazilian listing on the B3 exchange for Orange BTC. Shout out to Guy. They raised 400 million for Bitcoin, the largest in Brazil by far. And they're doing an entire merger. It's been months, and it's probably happening within the next month.
Yeah.
So and Satsuma, the smarter web company in London. So you see, it's interesting how people are capitalizing on the arbitrage of various markets in an asset, and then you're going down the chain of asset classes. Then in Ethereum, it's less geographical. It's more so U.S. capital markets. And then you have SBET, which is Joe Lubin, which is Ethereum itself. But then you have Tom Lee that wasn't really affiliated with Ethereum. You know, a month before he was offering research and Fundstrat, but now seemingly owns double of what Sharpling owns in the treasury and have accumulated a lot more aggressively because the market are receptive to a structuring seemingly better.
So when I see Tom Lee's success, what I see is he filled this gap or this need in the market for someone who could just articulate to normal folks, you know, what the fuck are we doing here on chain, right? And that's all Tom Lee did, right? But he does it at a very high level, of course. Right? He knows how to speak the lingo. He knows how to speak to your normal, your normal like mom and pop, right? And so like, what is your mission with your advocacy as it pertains to STSS? Like, do you want to be the next Tom Lee?
I think it goes to the point, it's not what you're saying, it's who's saying it. Yeah. Right? Tom Lee has built up credibility over the last decade. Sure. You know, being a Wall Street sell-side analyst, offering research of Fundstrat, speaking on CNBC. So I think it's really hard to replicate for any DAT just seeing, okay, I need the Tom Lee effect. Yeah. You look at his next project with that Mosaics, his team helped is Octo, Orbs now, the WorldCoin. And I would argue that outside of crypto, you know, not a lot of people know what WorldCoin is, but on the day of listing, it did tremendous volume. I think like over a few billion volume.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like very high. And it was only a 250 mil sort of announcement versus the billion ones we've been seeing on the market. Sure. I think it just shows the market like just understands like who's doing it, and that might be Tom Lee. So for myself and for Solana, I think we have a lot of really great advocates already, right? Kyle, I think, is honestly one of the best people to be speaking on this as well. Sure. And I saw his interviews that he recently did, like very well spoken. I think this is going to be crucial for actually getting out the echo chambers. More importantly, we feel it has to be a geographical situation as well, where in Asia right now, there just is lacking a lot of sort of that figurehead. You know, no matter for what asset class, Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum, just in digital asset treasuries in general. And if you look at it, China is probably one of the best regions in Asia in general for buying U.S. equities. There's a lot of laws that prevent the amount of actual USD that can go into U.S. equities for Chinese. And there's companies like Tiger, Futu, brokerage firms that help, you know, bend that. So you can actually educate users a lot on the underlying asset and then for them to own it in the digital asset treasury space through sort of U.S. equities and this way. So for us, a lot of it is finding this figurehead that can speak to various regions as well. And it's not just a James Zhang out here doing one podcast, but, you know, like multiple folks across time zone.
You've been doing a bunch of podcasts, man. And not just podcasts, but TV as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's been your favorite so far?
I have to say the crypto Web3, like I went on Thread Guy, it's very different from going to like New York Stock Exchange and having something. Because number one is when I was doing a Jumbo podcast, it's always about how much I can get out. Like even this podcast is like what I can say to the user. So when they leave it, they feel like they got something real from it. Yeah. But in a NYSE interview, it's a lot more of you have so much to say, but you can only say a breadcrumb of it because of regulations, legal, and what your lawyer and et cetera button you up. So it really is different getting used to that.
Do you have to do media training and all that stuff?
You have to do media training. So I just started, so I'm not the best. I'm doing my best on the training part.
Yeah. I mean, God, there's nothing more suffocating than like, and I for very good reasons, you need to be careful about what you represent in public, especially for a publicly traded company. Like 100%. And I'm with that. Yeah. But like, let's not discount the psychological element of it, right? Like it really kind of fucks with your head a little bit of like, it's not that what you're saying is wrong. It's just that there's so many rules. Exactly. And you're trying to keep them all straight in your head while also trying to advocate for what's best for your company, right?
Right. When you listen to a podcast, you're trying to hear what the realest thing this person has to say, right? If you look at podcasts in general, even in the basketball space, it went from like media personalities like Stephen A. Smith, Brian Windhurst, to now all ex-NBA players that are running the podcast. Because you want to go straight to the source and what something real
Ain't
people
nobody
have to
want to listen to Stephen Mann.
Exactly. You don't hear an analyst talking about basketball that doesn't play basketball. You want to talk about
trash.
Exactly.
It's like this man's not. I mean, he might be a student of the game, but he doesn't understand the game like that. You know,
right, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, what's got you the most excited for STSS? What does the future look like to you? I mean, like obviously in the short term, it's just like really aggressive capital raises and purchasing Solana, right? Yep. But like just kind of like looking in this 5-10 year future, like. There's always I find with really aggressive founders, there's like this North Star, right? Or something that you're chasing. And oftentimes it's not even that, it's almost like a dog chasing a car in the sense that like the dog will never catch the car, right? But like the dog has to run, right? And we got to go as far as we can, right? So like, what does that look like for you?
That card chase, that North Star, is only 5% of Solana for sharps. Just very simple. We want to get to a place where it's extremely meaningful and that you can actually, when you hold 5% of an asset, people start listening to you a lot more as well. And when you're getting to that stage. So a lot of what we're doing is just a function to try to get to more Solana accumulated, whether that's yield generation on-chain, off-chain, whether that's a lot of partnerships that we're doing, a lot of the raises through financial capital structures like ATM. It's all around owning more Solana.
Yeah.
Now, for our shareholders, we truly hope that, say August 25th, we launch, they buy a share of STSS in 1 year, in 2026, August 25th, they can own a lot more Solana than if they had spent that money just buying a Solana versus buying our stock.
Yeah.
So this is just like in the background, constant, that you're on the clock running a public company. This is also very different from running Jumbo, being private. Even when you launch a token, TGE, crypto markets are 24/7, but you don't feel as on the clock as when you wake up. I'm based in New York more these days, and it's pre-market, and there's traders, and they have their entire world of coffee, lingo, doing everything before the markets open. 9:30 a.m. hits, you have till 4 p.m. with the markets on, et cetera, things you gotta do. And then the post markets is an entire different game as well. Yeah. So I think learning a lot of these facets has been important too.
Yeah. Would it be fair to say that, and I'm going to be really careful about what I say here because I don't want to get you in trouble, but it's like buying a DAT is like buying leveraged SOL without the liquidation risk. Now, I want to be careful and be very specific about this point, is that depending on the strategies that you guys run, right, like there could be liquidation of SOL, right? Like if you go way too aggressive, and that's not even what you're doing right now, but just, legal disclaimer here, it's all like, what I'm trying to say is that in a normal leveraged position, right, like there is literal liquidation risk to you, the user, like 1-to-1, right? Yes. It's like you go 100x leverage, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, like you'll probably get your ass liquidated hella quick, right? But because these DATs can trade on multiples of the underlying, you are getting almost like the equivalent of a leveraged position in a sense, right? But without that immediate danger of like, well, if SOL dips to like 150, then like I'm out of the game, right?
No, great point. I think one of the biggest concerns for DATs in general is if Solana goes down 50% or the underlying asset goes down, what happens if you're on leverage? So I want to share that's probably right behind that DATs bring flows out of the underlying asset versus in is the biggest misconception, because it's not as leveraged as people think is what I would argue. If you look at MicroStrategy, there's been a lot of technical analysis, a lot of financial forms done on exactly how much Bitcoin can drop to before they get liquidated. I think that number is surprisingly low that people will see. Number two is, even for ourselves, we raised 410 mil. It was mostly in cash with a portion of in-kind. Well, the in-kind of Solana is, what are we doing with the cash to buy the lowest cost Solana possible for our shareholders? Well, if you're able to get that already in the raise, then it makes total sense because the cash is used to buy it anyways. You're not really taking leverage. We're not doing convertible rounds, or we're not doing offering, bonds, preferential shares, or various other financial leverage instruments. Quite simply, it was a pure equity raise in a private round. And then at the market ATM facility, you're selling shares at a reasonable market price to fair market price to, willing buyers. And then with that cash, you're then accreting more Solana. Yeah. So if I feel like run it in a non-leveraged way, then your liquidation risk is a lot lower. With that being said, how many DATs are there out there? I think over
like
100.
18 or oh no, sorry, just
in general.
In general, I don't know, but in Solana it's like 18, 19 now.
There's a lot of DATs, right? There's over 100, I think, in general. Well, a lot of them probably do have some leverage positions. Sure. And when they're trading below NAV, say a management team hasn't been doing as much PR, they haven't been communicating to their shareholders. Well, if they're trading at 0.6x MNAV, then your vehicle is at a 1.8x MNAV, doesn't even matter what asset class, doesn't make sense to get a deal done around like a 1x to 1.2x MNAV. So I think there's a lot of just simple logical things that can be done in the M&A space down the line. But I also don't think that will be as soon as people think. I feel like every podcast I hear anyone talking about DATs is there's going to be M&A down the line and we're doing everything on chain. That's the goal, and you'll want to be the one doing the M&A, and you want to be the one that's the first to do everything on chain. But I think it's just like crypto 4 years ago. Yeah. You don't have entire institutions, et cetera, all offering crypto. You don't have, the president and the entire C-suite execs in the US, government all pro crypto. It's a different regime now. And I feel like these 4 years as well, it's going to be very pro for public companies with financial tools to offer access to these underlying assets.
Yeah. What's the total percentage of Sol holdings for all the Sol DATs? I think I read somewhere it was close to 1%.
Oh, it was way more than that. I think the total Sol holding might be around 10% already.
For the DATs?
For I think all Sol DATs combined. Sorry, not 10%. Tripping. I think it's around 3 to 5% total right now of Solana.
Okay,
held by DATs.
So I mean, that just gives me a sense of how crazy your goal is, though. I mean, like trying to be like, okay, these are all the DATs combined, and I myself am going to be
right, exactly.
bullish.
We're bullish, and for Solana, I mean, anyone listening to this pod right now might just be thinking, okay, you guys are doing all this for Solana. Why don't we just go buy Solana? And I agree, you should just go buy Solana right now because you have everyone working for you and your bags.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a huge tailwind to the space to have what feels like overnight a bunch of public advocates. Don't get me wrong, we've always had people advocating for the chain, right? But more in our echo chamber, right? And I feel like this is the biggest push outside of our bubble on every single venue I can think of, whether it be like online podcasts or MSNBC, or even like New York Stock Exchange has their own program as well. I mean, I'm just seeing it everywhere. I wouldn't be surprised if there are just normal articles being written in the finance sections of newspapers now about like what the hell is a DAT. Do you remember when that term became a thing? I don't remember. It just kind of like, I almost feel like MicroStrategy, we didn't really have a name for it. So we just called it like MicroStrategy, but for Sol, right? Or like even for Metaplanet, we didn't have a name for it. So we're just like, oh yeah, it's like Metaplanet, but for Sol, right? So like, when did DATs become like?
I think last 6 months, honestly, because the entire industry in terms of digital asset treasuries, I feel like is around 6 months old, even though MicroStrategy is 5 years old, just because of how everyone came into it in the last 6 months and understood the trade. I feel like before it didn't, and that's a function of macro, right? It's not like just yesterday everyone wakes up and is like, let me go be a public advocate of these assets. It's more so, okay, I see Circle's IPO, and the revenue numbers are obviously mismatched to the valuation they were being priced at, going to Coinbase and et cetera that everyone knew, but it just showed the appetite that retail had, Robinhood equity traders had for crypto assets. And then you look at bullish exchange listing, you look at Gemini's, you look at what has been happening across the M&A space in crypto with like Rails being acquired by Ripple, bridged by Stripe with 2 crypto teams. I feel like there is a lot of adoption and things that are happening with entire banks, governments adopting crypto protocols and it becoming accessible. It's not like you can just turn a blind eye. So it's just that everything has been happening to this point of institutional adoption where DATs are put on the forefront with retail traders, looking at it for price volatility, action, and actually access to that underlying asset because it's a perfect blend of crypto coming mainstream now.
Yeah. I would like to propose a motion to change DAT, at least in the Solana context, to SAT. Have you heard this already?
No.
As a Solana accumulation treasury.
Hey, that's hilarious. That brings back so much trauma from SAT days.
Oh my God.
You took SATs as well?
Oh, of course, bro. I had to take my SATs 3 times. Because I just wasn't scoring high enough.
I think I took it like twice or 3 times.
Yeah. My mom was like, what is this? Because remember, they changed the scoring from 1800 to 2400.
Yes.
And like, I think the first time I took it, it was, I think I got like a 1900. It was really bad.
Are you Korean as well, so you got a different standard.
Yeah, man. Like, my mom was like, this ain't it. You ain't you ain't going to college with these numbers.
Hey, mom, I'm gonna sank them after. Then she was happy. I love it.
She's like, pump the numbers.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'd love to dive a little bit deeper into kind of your worldview, which has been shaped by some really interesting, I mean, just your background is super fascinating to me, right? I think I heard somewhere, and please forgive me if I'm wrong, that your family has been in Africa for 3 generations?
Yes.
That is, what the fuck is, what?
I mean, there's only 2 Chinese kids in my school, me and my sister. Yeah.
I don't understand, like, so I love history, right? And one of the things I really love is to understand diaspora.
Okay.
Right? Like, how do certain people get to places, right? So, like, when I hear about, like, Indians in Africa, I kind of get that. It's like the British brought them over, right? So I kind of understand the immigration path, right? What the hell?
Actually, you're right. A lot of Africa is run by Indian and Gujarati Indians specifically.
Yeah, Gujarati. Yeah,
Gujarati, exactly.
Yeah,
very, very smart. Been there generations. Chinese is more there as a private company, One Belt, One Road initiative. So really, like those that have been there for 3 generations, like us, is very little. Yeah, I think our family is just early. We were in shipping, between Asia and Africa.
Yeah.
So has been there doing that. Is Port Matadi in Congo is a huge sort of gateway to the world, I guess, for trade. So always been there. Growing up, there's only one American international school, right? If you're white, you can't really walk on the streets. Everything is like you have to be more safe. There's only certain regions. And Congo is just a little different. I don't want people to think of Africa like just like Congo because there's there's direct flights everywhere to Africa. The most luxurious 6-star hotel travel safaris are in Africa. Some of the biggest tech innovations recently, some of the biggest stablecoin usage. But it's just Congo specifically, this country itself, top 3 most dangerous in Africa, I would say, even because of natural resources and just being extremely corrupt. So growing up there 16 years, I guess that view for me is you can't really trust a centralized entity or government in general. And just seeing how business is conducted in the region is not really like how I see in the States or in China.
Where there's like rule of law, property rights that are respected.
Right. It's a lot more organic growth, right? If you do a startup, even in these regions. In Africa, it's a lot less. It's more inorganic in terms of like top down. You have to, if you want to do XYZ, you have to go through XYZ. And if you went through the wrong XYZ, you'll take XYZ more time type vibes. So I think when I, discovered Bitcoin in NYU in school, in comp sci, that already was a use case in and of itself, like big enough for me to devote a lot of time. And then just getting really lucky in 2017 when I graduated, that was the first retail bull run. So if I had graduated in 2016 or 2018, I don't know if I would have jumped headfirst into just everything around it. So,
right. Yeah. So it's like, okay, so you had basically your childhood, right? You said up until you were 16?
Yes.
Okay, so you lived in the Congo.
And then I went to Hong Kong for international school. Just because my sister is the only one to graduate from like that country of 100-something million people to an Ivy League, to Columbia. Yeah. And my mom probably didn't think I was a second, so put me to this really good school in Hong Kong called HKIS, and then went to NYU.
Okay. So that's the path. It was Africa, HK, and then New York.
Exactly.
Right. Did you spend a lot of time? Did you go back and forth? But you must have gone back to Hong Kong like periodically, like growing up, or were you?
Sometimes in the summer.
Yeah.
And stuff, but like we might be traveling in Africa, Europe, other places more, like things like that. But it's really just in the summers that you can be more doing things.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Man, that is so. I had no fucking clue. That just blows my mind.
Appreciate you, bro. Not a lot of Asian Africans, I have to say.
No, dude. Yeah. Like sometimes I remember the first time I met like a British Korean. And I was looking at him, and like you have to remember, I was like, what, 17? Right. So like my perspective of the world was very small.
Of course.
Right. And I was like, look, Asians only belong in 2 places, all right? Asia or America. Where the fuck are you from?
Right.
He's like London. I'm like, what?
This is different.
Yeah. I always pegged you, like, swear down. First of all, I remember the first time I met you, I thought you were Korean.
Okay.
Yeah. And second, I thought you were from LA. Like just the vibe, vibe, like the way that you talk, like the way that you carry yourself, the confidence, like you just.
Appreciate it.
But is that because of the American International School?
It must be, right?
Yeah.
Like you grow up speaking French because it was Belgian colony, like only American at school, Mandarin at home. So like it's just a little bit different. I think the LA vibes, I don't know it because like I never even went to school in LA. But yeah, I gotta say people in LA are a lot more chill, the friends I have, than those I went to school with in New York.
Yeah.
I mean, same to you, bro. The first time I met you, I was like, you're the most like positive energy, upbeat person. And then you were being a host at most of the events. I was like, oh, this is perfect. Then when I saw you went to Sanctum, I was like, that's actually what even put Sanctum on my radar even more. Because I was like, oh, if Eno's going there, the talent is going there, they must be legit.
Appreciate you. But I mean, we've actually sold, not sold, but we've co-promoted Jambo phones on stage multiple times.
Yeah. I appreciate you. You made it a lot more fun doing raffles, etc.
I mean, because quite frankly, right, you gotta keep the energy high.
Yes.
But not just at events. It's actually just a tip. Like events are just a microcosm for life. But I mean, the same could be said of anything, whether it be the sport that you play or like the hobbies that you pursue or the people that you love.
Of course.
Like everything is a microcosm of just life, right? Yep. There are lessons to be extracted. But yeah, I mean, like just keeping that and it's hard to like be up on stage and just be like, okay, so, Jambo is the next generation. And like, but people got to know though, right? Because otherwise, if you aren't advocating for yourself, who is going to advocate for you? It's like, ain't nobody going to come save you, right?
Especially in this space, attention is so hard to capture.
Yeah.
And if you look at most of the TGEs around liquidity, how you can actually capture any attention to be reflected in your charts is like a never-ending game for founders. And the meta is constantly changing. So, I honestly feel very blessed in Solana because you're getting a lot of help. Like you feel like you're in the trenches with friends,
100%.
Yeah, it's like you're building in a college class, and there is a framework, there's a structure, there's friends that are building in various pockets of finance that you can reach out to, there's partnerships. I feel like when I was doing things more before Solana, like before 2021, it's more free-for-all. Well, granted, it's a lot more DeFi. On chain that like without like faces to the project, etc., especially in DeFi summer and things, farming yams, etc. So I guess it is a little different.
But like that's the thing that keeps me coming back to Solana. It's not like you and I started off on Solana looking for a family. Like that certainly wasn't the goal. It was just like, okay, it's a practical consideration. Even for us, like I came to Solana because we launched Solana's first yield-bearing stablecoin. Right, and it was just very basic, like, okay, like, well, what's the gas fees, right? And like, how fast is it? Like, could this network actually be used for payments, right? And at that time, even post FTX, it was very clear to us that Solana was the chain for it. And we weren't so sure whether or not it was going to survive. But like, we were very lucky that it did. And it's almost like this shared trauma bonding where like everybody who was here at that time, and like we have all the same friends.
Of course.
Right? It's like probably 200, 300 builders, right? Who were there at that time, going to all the hacker houses.
Stuck through it.
Yeah, stuck through it. But that, it's weird because typically when you think of like any emerging technology, you tend to break it down into things that can be easily measured, right? But you can't really measure the cohesion between founders as a metric. But I think that's specifically what has made Solana succeed. It's like those relationships between maybe like less than 1,000 people around the world at that time who are all just building, chewing glass despite all the, quite frankly, the shitstorm after FTX has made us so much stronger. And now it's like, what are you going to do to me? Like, what could you possibly do to hurt me?
So many black swan events have happened.
Yeah.
That can happen.
There's like literally no reason why we should be here right now. Like actually, like legit. Like you look at everything that's happened.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. It's like but you know what though? I always want us to keep that underdog feel.
Right.
I'm starting to feel like people are getting a little bit too big for their britches and kind of getting a little too cocky, on the timeline. And I'm like, whoa, slow your roll, right? We got, because the opportunity it's just so much bigger. Right? Like people are thinking too small. People are like the total market cap for all of crypto is like Apple.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like this is the future of finance that we're talking about, and like literally all of that, like Apple could, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like we have so much farther to go, which is why I'm so excited for companies like STSS, right? Because it's only like 1% of what we think it could be, right? And this is not financial advice. Like we have no price predictions on Sol, but if the macro environment takes care of itself, like why wouldn't the asset follow the macro, right? And again, the fundamentals are what matter more than anything else.
Of course.
So like what kind of fundamentals are you looking at on Solana right now that gets you like super excited? You go like, that's bullish, and people should be paying way more attention to this.
Yep. I think usage rate. Like it's hard to actually measure usage rate or like total economic revenue generated. I think this is a term the foundation has been using more, but revenue is one of the metrics, right? 900 to the 300 Ethereum, like staking yield native at 8% and what that can actually do for you. Like Solana is a lot more productive of an asset than Bitcoin. So if you think about it, digital asset treasury strategies should work better for Solana than for Bitcoin, because even when you're issuing the bonds, when you're issuing whichever, the native yield already helps you pay back a lot of it, and then you can continue that flywheel. I think that maybe the hardest thing for Solana is just the time frame. That's only been 5 years. And if you look at what the foundation's doing, Lily, Akshay, they're opening new countries, entire Solana economic zones. I think it's like building two companies, to be honest, where you're building your company on top of Solana, but then you're constantly evangelizing Solana as an underlying asset. Because like you said, we're only the tip of the iceberg right now. Solana's 100 bill market cap, Ethereum's 500 bill. Solana's 5% of what Bitcoin is. If it even reaches a percentage of what we think the value can be transferred on chain with everything tokenized, then it really is quite incredible to think about. Yeah.
I feel so incredibly privileged. We're still early. I believe that's so strongly. I get just working in this industry day in and day out, it can almost kind of feel like everybody knows, right? But that's only because of the information that we consume. And but you talk to, most of the people in this podcast studio are not on Solana, just literally you and me.
Yeah.
Right? So we got work to do.
Well, we have work to do. I just listened to the Santi on the Empire Pod, and the way he put it is, it is still the bull market, just not the bull market that you expected. I think that's what most people in crypto feel right now, where it's been ongoing for a long time, from the meme coin super cycle to now more institutional with DATs and et cetera. There's a lot of shifts in narrative, a lot of shifts in liquidity. And honestly, most of the liquidity hasn't been concentrated where most retail crypto traders are expecting, which is in more still meme coins and other altcoins, but it's actually more aggregated towards the main sort of blue chip tokens.
Yeah.
And it's with institutions driving sort of this wave. So I think there's probably some of the best macro tailwinds in sight, and definitely believe it's the bull run. Just how do you actually capitalize it, and then how do you get the message out there even more? Because if the message ends in this cycle with another FTX-like sort of bear market beginning, then I feel like for the real world, it's like, oh, I told you so type of moment. I told you this is a scam. I told you X, Y, Z. But if they can continue seeing, oh, Bitcoin's still at 100 and above 110K, there's great, price support. There's obviously these nations that are printing capital to accumulate more Bitcoin. What's going on with Ethereum, Solana, and with Wall Street actually buying in, being owned in more, the Mag 7 and other portcos, things get really interesting.
Yeah. If I were to try to break down the simplest way to explain Solana to anybody, right? Not even going into the technical details, all the amazing, whether it be DePIN or DeFi or stable coins, without going into any of that, right? The way that, and I want to get your opinion on this. I like to pitch Solana as the unicorn chain.
Okay.
This is where billion-dollar businesses are built, period, right? What's your mental framing of Solana? How do you think of it?
So first of all, I agree with that. I love the unicorn chain.
Yeah.
Like I said, most of the fastest growing DApps and apps have been on Solana. I think Bitcoin digital gold, Solana as the NVIDIA digital infrastructure is really a way we're trying to show it. Because 10 years ago, you buy gold and NVIDIA, you log off, you do better than every hedge fund. Today, Bitcoin is that digital gold. Well, every other asset is still a technological bet. And obviously Solana DeFi is what makes us so interested in Solana and the most commercialized viable chain to bring everything on chain with the metrics, the usage rate, the transaction cost, and the speed. Then it would be the NVIDIA digital infrastructure. So that's just a very simple. We've also had other attempts, like Bitcoin's digital gold, ETH is digital oil, that's how it's branded, then Ethereum is digital silicon, the building blocks of the world in microchips, processors, semiconductors, powers, everything, the phone, everything around you. So there's a lot of frameworks for retail. I think it's really how you have to portray it.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what? As much as we're mega fucking bullish on Solana, we're also intellectually honest, right? And so without fudding the chain, just being real, right? What are some of the things that you hear when I'm sure you talk to, I know you talk to thousands of people, but it's but I'm sure you're getting all kinds of questions, right? About Solana itself. And I know I've heard you say in other interviews that it's not so much that some of the people that you're talking to, they don't grill you on Solana, they grill you on you and the way that you structured the company. I hear you on that, right? But if we want, let's say a retail investor who's just trading on Robinhood and he owns Tesla stock and maybe some NVIDIA, and now you want him to consider STSS, not financial advice, as a potential holding, right? Just kind of wondering, they might be hearing all kinds of, let's say, random tweets that they've seen or just some FUD that they read online of oh, well, isn't Solana the chain that, shuts down every other week or, pump.fun, that's it's all just rugs, right? So it's a casino. So, being intellectually honest, how would you kind of address some of the negative FUD that you do hear about Solana, or how do you try to address that, or how do you think about the perception?
No, great question. I think the biggest FUD we hear is Solana is a meme coin chain, and people just have such negative connotations to meme coins. I simply just asked them a question. I'm like, what does it mean to be a meme coin chain? If you zoom out, it honestly just means it's the chain that can sustain all this economic activity and where meme coins, as projects want to deploy, where the users and liquidity are, and where users want to be trading these meme coins with a fast enough UI UX that's abstracted that they feel comfortable with Phantom, etc. If you open your phone for anyone on the streets at KBW, how many people you think will have MetaMask and I'm not. You know what? That was a terrible example. What I wanted to say is, I feel like most people will have Phantom, Dex Screener. Sure. They will have a lot of D apps and apps on their phone, on mobile, and most of those will be Solana because they will be either having a wallet app that's cross-chain, checking meme coins, and doing other things. So the way I would say it is honestly just debunking what the meme coin chain means and showing them it's actually the infrastructure to hold and do all of these things.
I mean, let's dig into that a little bit deeper, right? So humans have always loved to gamble.
Yes.
So much so, it's like it's one of the earliest, like human vices, right? It goes back thousands of years. Like if there is a speculative bet to be made, you bet your fucking ass that someone's gonna make it.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I do see a lot of meme coin trading as worrisome. I actually am on record saying fuck pump multiple times. And I don't know Elon as a person, and so like I'm not speaking to his character.
Right.
I'm not attacking him as a person, right? But as a product category, like I'm not the biggest fan of what feels my biggest issue with meme coins isn't even like the morality of it. It's just such a waste of capital. Right. Like I feel like we would all be much happier, right? And the world would be in a much better spot if all that capital was being put into DeFi tokens,
of course,
right? Or if that capital was being put into DATs, right? Like this, it's more about the inefficiency than like any moral arguments of like, well, gambling is bad. It's all like, and to your point, it's always going to have like, regardless of whether it's Solana or whatever, like that activity, because it requires an incredible amount of performance, because I think at certain parts of the meme coin super cycle, there were, I saw a Jupiter presentation, there was like 90,000 new tokens launching in a day, right? Like what chain can support that? Honestly, it's us, right? And so like, we are the beneficiaries of that. I have mixed feelings about it, but at the same time, where else is that activity going to go? And it is permissionless, right? Like anybody can build on top of Solana. So yeah, I don't know. I guess
we just can't change human nature.
No.
Like, people are gonna make bets on Polymarket. They're gonna do things, right? You look at the valuations for Kalshi and Polymarket. It's obvious where VCs are funding where growth is, and that is where the growth is. And people might still have flashbacks to Augur not working.
Yeah.
But that is probably more of a function of the product itself than the actual idea when there's more changes in the market, right? Yeah, I have mixed feelings, but I think that people shouldn't be punished for enabling, more things, and it's like what you choose to do with it. There's obviously bad actors everywhere and doing anything, so it's more so staying in that lane, but then understanding the tech.
Yeah, but I also feel like it zooms in too much on one specific part of Solana.
Agreed.
And it's like, bro, do you realize, like, if you looked at an ecosystem map of all the stuff that we're building, right? It's like we have at this point, I mean, from the FTX lows to, the highest of highs now.
Yes.
I want to be careful with this number, but I want to say, just judging by the Coliseum submissions, which I think was like over 1,500 submissions for like the last Coliseum hackathon. We have tens of thousands of builders on the chain now, right? And so like it's I'm not saying disrespectful, but it's very...
It's a disservice to Solana.
It is.
By putting it as a consumer chain that's just around meme coins and launching these things. You're right.
It's like, dude, we have literal mobile networks now, right? All decentralized.
Yes.
We have some of the best stablecoin, borrowing and lending products,
of
right?
Course.
Really high quality vaults. I mean, much more than your bank will fucking give you, right?
Of course.
And in some cases, even principal protection, right? Like with an insurance pool. I mean, there are, and I also think another negative perception that I hear amongst some builders, especially people outside of Solana, is like, well, you guys just like stole that idea from us. And kind of my response to that is like, yes, we did. And like,
it's all iterations on top and execution. Exactly.
The first version of Jupiter Perps was GMX.
Right.
And we grew past that.
Of course.
Right. But like, why shouldn't we take what works outside of our ecosystem?
It's open source code is the premise of crypto.
Honestly. Yeah, exactly. So there's almost like kind of this moral grandstanding of like, well, we're the ones who came up with the idea. It's like, yes, you did. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Here are your flowers. We're going to do it better now.
Exactly.
Thank you.
No, you're right. I really hate characterizing Solana as a consumer chain because it does a disservice to the hundreds of builders in the space.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I'm actually very, like, we work with the Solana Foundation a lot in terms of like how the marketing is presented even. And even from like the color on our deck or the visuals, so we try to keep it very Solana aligned. I think that's one of the main things on Solana as well is the vibes. You look at the curtains even behind us is tailored towards Solana vibes. So yeah, it's a lot of cooperation. Yeah. I don't know how much other DATs and other assets are cross-coordinating with the foundation and with the builders, right? I like ETHZilla, BitMine, et cetera. I don't know how much of that is being done.
Yeah.
I think also how you display your holdings and how transparent you can be is going to be a factor going forward for end retail because your Solana will be dispersed and custody amongst a lot of different providers for safety, for et cetera risks. Well, how do you actually show that to users, how their shares is growing, et cetera? I think that's also very Solana aligned where the UI UX has to be very pretty.
So I am a student of politics and I don't like to, we're not going to talk politics on the show, but it's through politics where I realized where real power lies. And real power is through grassroots. Grassroots effort, though, is 10 times harder than just getting support from somebody who already has power, right? And so I think a lot of the, and say what you want about his policies, say what you want about him as a man, right? But we can, actually both of these candidates or presidents, both Obama and Trump teach us both this political lesson, despite the fact that they're on opposite sides of the political spectrum, which is that their campaigns started from grassroots, right? And they weren't institutional picks. In fact, both the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee, they probably their first pick for both of those years would not have been Obama, and it would not have been Trump, right? But they were able to both effectively take over their parties through intense grassroots support because grassroots support is true believers. It's unshakable. You cannot change their conviction. These are people who will work, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 a.m. for months at a time for a very specific mission, right? Whereas like someone who has already made it or has, it's just a different level of hunger, right? And the things that they're willing to do or try, like they won't go door to door. Right. They won't go on social media and tweet and comment on everything. And so I would like to draw that same political lesson to the work that you do, right? The reason why I'm the most bullish on STSS and Sharp's technology is because you are so deeply connected to the grassroots, right? And hey, no disrespect to any of the DATs. Thank you for pumping all our bags. Actually, I've heard you say this over and over and over again. It's not a competition, bro. It's a rising tide that raises all ships. Like we all win.
Yes, sir.
Right? Like why? Like everyone's making money. Like long term, everyone's making money. If the macros hold, if we keep doing our jobs, right. So there's a lot of preconditions to success in the future, but it's like. But I am particularly bullish on you just because, well, one, I've known you for quite some time now, but I know just how deeply ingrained you are at not just the highest levels of Solana, right? But it's like you talk to and know just damn near every single builder in this space, right?
Yes, sir.
Who are some of your favorite, not teams, but like people in the space? Who are people that you love?
First of all, I appreciate that, bro. It means a lot coming from you because I don't know if anyone knows more Solana builders than you. Maybe Kosh, but other than that, maybe you.
No. There are more OGs in the space.
Yes, sir. But this deeply involved. Yeah, very, very impressive. I think I really am a fan of a lot of the consumer-focused founders in Solana.
Okay.
So like, obviously we did Pengu and Bonk partnerships. So I want to say Luca and Nam are I'm big fans of them and how because their communities really transcended like crypto, right? You see their partnerships in the real world and what they're saying. I think if you look at stock movement and price from press release from a lot of these announcements, you can also see the real world, the TradFi is looking and caring. I think going a step further is the real diehards that have been in Solana and even in the fund space. Like, I don't know these guys, but like Big Brain, for example, right?
Yeah.
That has constantly been talking about Solana, even at $8, $10, $12.
Yeah.
Like these guys have unshakable conviction.
Yeah.
So that is the first thing to be respected. That's as an investor. And as a founder, you'll have multiple folks that are just quite amazing. So Toli and Raj, got to give them their flowers.
Yeah.
Like how well spoken they are on Solana, internet capital markets, and what this mission we're trying to accomplish, and even bringing Lily on board to then continuing that in various other geographies has been quite astonishing to see. And that's how we're thinking about leadership as TSS as well. So if there's something, that you guys can help me, honestly, from listening to the pod is we're heavily hiring right now and for various roles, whether at the pubco level or at a crypto startup level. So please reach out, if you guys would be interested in partnering together.
Actually, you know what? This is a great series of questions to ask now.
Yes.
What is the culture you want at STSS, right? Like obviously you want people who are competent, right? And probably have a background in the job that they want to do.
Yeah.
But that's all boilerplate stuff.
Yes.
That's of course you want that, right? But what is the STSS vibe, right? Like what do you want at Sharps Technologies?
I want folks that truly believe and understand digital assets that can speak on it to someone. Like Richard Feynman said, if you can't explain a concept to someone like they're 5 years old, you don't understand it well enough yourself.
Yeah.
So I really hope that obviously some people are more talented at speaking and just communicating, can communicate to that public. Because that's all we're doing, right? It's not like you need to be the deepest Solana DeFi builder or have done XYZ, but you need to have used those protocols and understand it to then bring someone on board into it. So I think the Sharps, like I'll give you an example, hiring heavily for CFO role right now, senior. The amount of people that cross over in the Venn diagram that have run a pubco CFO and who have understanding of digital asset treasuries is very little, right? So there is not a lot of people that fit both profiles. So finding these people and honestly speaking with them, then working with them has been incredible as well.
Yeah. I think one of the last things that I want to talk about is your relationship with Alice.
Yes.
Right. So I mean, like it's very rare that you find, and don't get me wrong, you do see it in the space, right? But it's very rare that family members work together, much less on two different ventures, right? So tell me a little bit more about like what the dynamic is like how do you find working together? Like how did the whole Sharps, the DIT idea even come to fruition? I'm just really curious because siblings, I mean, man, it's like when that relationship like works on a professional level, it's like you actually can't fuck with it. Like you can't. You just the level of understanding on the deepest psychological levels, as well as just like that mind meld that you have. It's like, I mean, you can't beat it. Actually, quite frankly, it's a little. It is a competitive advantage.
It really is.
Yeah.
I say, what is the one thing that we're constantly trying to solve for as a founder is you're trying to solve for trust, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's trust in your partners, trust in employees, trust in anything that you're doing. For me, I was sort of born with that, right? I already had my co-founder picked basically with my sister.
As blood.
You're right, as blood. And I think what we've gone through, like experienced 2 civil wars in Congo, like, overnight evacuations, like living, my mom said, you have to pick a school in New York because Alice is there, like really wants to keep the family together. That's always been the DNA identity sort of my family. Maybe because we're some of the only Chinese in, a foreign country growing up. But I learned most of what I know from my sister.
Yeah.
So I say it's really good for any investor in us. As you get a 2-for-1. You get someone much smarter than James, constantly solving all the problems that we're thinking about every day. But you're right. I think as siblings, you really have to have cross skills. Like if we have the exact same skill set, you might butt heads a lot. You might different things. But I think because we have a 4-year age gap and we truly do have various, I'd say different skills. She's a lot more of an operator, so even in the DAT setup, it's very time consuming to actually have that relationship with the management team. So with Sharps Technology, Alice spent a lot of time there with the management, working through on the Solana digital asset treasury thesis, understanding. And then for me, it's, we have over 70 investors in the private round.
Yeah.
And you have to honestly inspire investor confidence, understand the mission that you were doing.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's already other DATs out there. What makes you special? How big can you get? What is your strategy? How do you think about macro? So I think us spending time in both sides is really what was able to make it work.
Yeah, but don't talk yourself down now. I mean, you are, an incredible operator. I mean, and I know this because when I'm texting you what is, maybe like 4 or 5 p.m. my time, that is, 3, 4 a.m. New York time.
Right. Yes, sir.
I do not, do you even sleep? What is it?
No, I actually try to sleep 6-7 hours, but not gonna lie, you have to work on U.S. public markets time zone now, and then across. So it's been crazy.
Yeah, no, I think the last few months for you have been fucking nuts because like every single time I look at your chat room, it's just like online. Last seen recently. I'm like, dude, when is James sleeping, man? Like,
hey, I'm excited to come in this podcast room today. Honestly,
you got a lot of speaking engagements for KBW this week, right?
We just have a few. We're like a small sponsor as well, so we want to make sure we get our shareholders understand that we're working as well. But it's really not about. I think speaking as KBW and showing that you did that on Twitter is more so like speaking with the institutions in Korea.
Right.
And then even some of the family offices and individual investors out here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, best of luck with your week over here. Best of luck with STSS. The Soul Brothers will always be here whenever you want to talk about anything you got going on. I remember seeing the tweet. I mean, I can't believe that's how I found out, right? Like I saw the tweet and I was all like, yeah, just STSS raised $400 million, and who's behind it? I'm like, James? Holy shit!
Appreciate you, bro.
That is crazy.
That's how busy we were. Didn't even have time to catch up with everyone in the
eco. Of course, dude. Like, I mean, like, what are you going to do? Send personal messages to the thousands of people you know? That's insane.
But now I think it's enabled us to build up the partnerships even faster because we already knew everyone. So it's been a blessing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, congratulations on all the success, and I'm hoping for more. This has been James Zhang, a strategic advisor for STSS, who has just raised $410 million to buy our bags. And he is targeting getting 3 to 5% of the Solana supply. If you don't understand how insane that is, get your head under a rock, out of that rock, because, I mean, really, he's doing God's work over here. So, James, thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for having me, bro. Appreciate it.
Nice, and that's a wrap.
Bro, that was awesome.